Everybody just jumps right to conclusions that I wasn't here. That this is getting old, unfair, and stereotyping.
Well, it's only a stereotype because it's true.
Yeah,
stereotyping.
Stereotyping.
This is true. All right. Well, we'll be able to dig in real cool here today. I love having all four, but 3 has its advantages too.
I think what Scott's trying to say is it's not racist if it's true. But I knew it was Tuesday. I've been practicing all morning.
Well, no.
But yesterday was a big day for you, right? Yesterday was a pretty big day for you.
Yeah.
What did you tell me on the phone?
I had no idea it was my birthday. I was wondering why the hell everybody was texting me so much.
Dude. Of all the things to forget.
Yep.
I'm not a big birthday guy, but I know what day it is.
What was it? You said it was like 9:30 before you knew it was your birthday?
It was a solid 9:30 before I even knew it was my birthday. I just knew my phone was making a bunch of noise, but I wasn't particularly looking at it. Oh, I thought.
Well, that's on brand too.
Yeah.
And when you looked at it and you saw this happy birthday, was it a surprise?
I have 87 unopened text messages right now. It was yeah. No, it was a good time.
Lord, how do you do that? I would be going nuts.
It would be so easy to have a surprise party.
I'd go nuts.
Those numbers are actually kind of low. I've had triple digits on the phone and the text message most of my adult life.
Yeah.
So when people get mad because I didn't text them back or call them back and for 48 hours, but I did, like, that's good numbers. You're doing all right.
I'm actually ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Except when Scott's daughter texts me good birthday, good morning, good birthday, I texted her right back.
All right, this is getting a little bit awkward. Of course, it stays awkward. It stays awkward.
Oh man.
With you.
I can't talk about last night, but me and Pat were having dinner and the waitress came up and was scratching her face and she said, I don't know why my face itches so much. I said, I think it might be the meth. And Pat looked absolutely mortified. And when she left, he said, "You're the only person I know that can say that and get a chuckle out of someone," and they walk off. I'm like, eh.
Yeah, she was laughing as she walked off because she knew what she was going to do to your food.
Yeah,
what an a-hole. Yeah, give me number 7. I got something for number 7.
Well, all right, here we go. It very well could have been true. What are they waiting on? They're here.
Well, I'm sure it was if you said that. No, I'm saying they're waiting for the show to start. And the show's starting right now. I don't know, 9 weeks in a row. We've done the Bite Me podcast. We ain't going to miss it. Captain Dean's going to miss it, but for a good reason. He's got a bow. He's in a tree blind, I'm guessing, or somewhere. Doing God's work on his Thanksgiving treats. I'm John Lopez. Captain Caleb McCumber is here. Captain Scott Knoll is here, and we got a full show for you. Obviously, let's get through this quick. So listen fast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget about Captain Caleb TV's YouTube channel and the Bite Me group page. The Bite Me group page is going to be front and center today. We've got pushing 10,000 people that's part of the community there right here with the Bite Me podcast. We got a lot of topics to cover for you, but we'll start right there. So if you do all that, we'll be sure to inform and entertain you. Let's start with that first part right there. Caleb, I'm going to start with you. We're rolling and we're blowing and going on this week's podcast. We're not messing around. Got a lot to cover. It's Thanksgiving week. Actually, we're going to get to that. I've had some really memorable weekends leaving early on Thanksgiving and going fishing. And such, but let's start with the Bite Me group page, Caleb. There have been, I guess, is it erroneous information? Is it misinterpreted information? We got some weather going on, man. We got a lot of weather going on right here, up and down the Gulf Coast. And sometimes you see things that aren't there. Can we just like, and this is the information part of the podcast. What people are looking at isn't always what they think it is, Caleb. And I'm referencing a post on the group page with obviously highlighting the weather that's changing. It's getting colder, I'm sure, everywhere right now up and down the Gulf Coast. But what are we looking at, and what is it that people need to know about the weather change that's happening right now?
This is the one that I've been saying that we have been looking for. And God dang it, John, all I wanted was to make it through one show where we didn't talk about croaker or something and entertain everybody. And you go straight into erroneous information on the page. Oh, I mean,
we're helping. We're helping.
Oh boy. No, heck.
Yeah.
This front did what it was supposed to do. It was forecasted to below 40. I've been watching. It's been more like the 24 to 30 mark, but we've lost a little bit over a foot of water. I'm posting a picture on the Bite Me page right now. That is the Colorado River, and there's probably, I don't know, 8 feet of sand showing on the banks now. It's cool. Nice. I'll just go ahead and quote my buddy Lowry. He texted me earlier and he said there's going to be a lot of fishermen that need a blanket for the doghouse after Thanksgiving, because Thursday morning, I don't care what anybody says, I am going. It's blowing like 2. All that bait's got sucked out, man. The water's low where I can find the schools, and it should there should be plenty of areas that are cleared up by Thursday. But this is what, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that there's been a dump before this one. Am I wrong?
Yeah, there's been a couple of them, but not
a real one.
Yeah, I mean, this one is probably the best one to have fished during the dump, and it's still going on. Really, I mean, looking at it right now, we still got northwest winds. I can confirm that by walking outside just a few minutes ago, and just about getting blown away as I went around the corner of the building. And every station that I'm looking at right now, I've just been glancing as you were talking. Not that I didn't want to pay attention to you, but I was looking, and every red line on the tide thing is dropping and dropping and dropping. One of them I'm looking at, just Port O'Connor, and Port O'Connor typically doesn't get that big of a drop on a dump because of where the tide station is. But it's gone from it was like 1.2, 1.3 when it started, and it is down to a negative 0.2 or negative 0.3. So it's dropped 1.5 feet.
Yeah,
that's a significant jump. That I've been out the last 2 days, and the water was up in the mangroves. Probably 6 or 8 inches covering the bases of the mangroves, and all the bait fish was in there. As we're poling along through there, we could hear them beating up bait fish all back in the trees. It was like Dean likes to say, it was monkey fishing. They were everywhere back in the trees, and with nothing you can do about it. We'd find one every now and then that would sneak out along the edge and be coming along there. Well, what happens as soon as this dump happens, and the reason we always call it the dump, is all that water goes out. It's like a big flush, and it pulls all the water off of all of those areas that shouldn't be holding water this time of year, because the tides were above normal, way above what they were supposed to be, because we had strong southeast wind. Get that northwest wind, it's going to help it push it out. It also coincided with a falling tide. I mean, if you pay attention at all, you could have predicted this one. I mean, it was hitting exactly at the right time on the tide schedule. I mean, if the winds hit when you're supposed to have a strong incoming tide, it kind of cancels it out a little bit, and you don't get the dramatic fall. This one, right as the tides were turning to go out, is when the north wind hit, and it just sucked everything out. So all that bait that I was looking at the last 2 days up in the trees, getting smacked around, had to get going, man. Had to pack their bags. There was no more good times. They were going to get sucked out into the main water, and the redfish know that too. And the redfish are going to sit there and pick them all off. Trout are going to pick them off as they hit the open water, more or less.
Yeah, as we're sitting here on the middle coast, especially Matagorda, the tide is supposed to go out until 6:30, and the wind's going to stay strong. I think the wind stays fairly strong all the way through midnight. So I bet we lose another, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. I didn't realize, I'm sitting here. I live in a hardy plank house, and typically I can tell by the sound of the whistles how hard it's blowing. And I'm sitting there in my studio messing around and nothing to do today. And I'm listening and it blowing a little bit. My wife texts me. She says the trash has to go to the road this morning. It's all right, cool. And so I went out my door on the south side of my house and I walked around to the other side of my house protected by the wind. And we get those. She orders, we have like, I don't know, 47 dogs here. And she orders those 55-pound bags in the from Chewy, and they come in cardboard boxes. So we always got like 6 of these boxes. And I had 3 in each hand by a flap, and I walked around the corner and that wind caught them all, dude. It almost turned me over backwards. There's
you got a sail working.
Well, I didn't have to carry them on the road because they're all blew through the cotton gin. It's a bit breezy out there.
Now here's the other part of this. It also depends on where on the coast you are. A little bit further up, I guess really kind of from Port O'Connor up, right, Scott? After that, the dump doesn't quite, it does, but it doesn't quite have the same effect.
Yeah, I mean, you need marshes. And there are marshes further up, further down than that too. And it does blow water out of those, but those aren't things that a lot of people down that way fish. They fish more like Dean out on the open flats. It's not nearly as noticeable when you're out on those open flats. Yes, the water does drop,
low water,
but it doesn't have the funneling effect. And that's what we look for on the upper coast. You want big back lakes that go to narrow bayous that dump out into a bigger piece of water. Anywhere there's a funnel and that water starts pulling, those are your spots. That's where you want to be.
So let's get a little more specific here, Caleb. Like, obviously you have your spots you're going to go to, but what is the generic look for this? Like Scott just referenced the funneling effect.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you need a marsh that's draining out, especially if you know that marsh has been holding a lot of bait, which this time of year most all of them are. But you want to find a marsh that is pulling out, and when you find that, and you really don't have to fish right up in the the creek or the channel or whatever you want to call it that comes out of it. It just spread all out in front of it are good places to fish. And like Pat and I fished yesterday, and what we were doing was we could actually read the watercolor, and some of them, that the way that marsh was draining out and leaving, some of them were 50, 60 yards out in front of the marsh where it was moving. But right now, like if I was in Matagorda right now, what would be a telltale sign would be dirty water because the wind's been blowing so hard, but cleaner water coming out of a drain. That's telling me you've got good, solid flow coming out of a marsh, because it can be blowing like crazy, and there's going to be a big old green patch of water right in front of that and dirty everywhere around it. And I would be fishing those color lines if I was fishing right now during that passage.
Yeah, the epitome of a color change right there. I mean, you can see it out on the open water, but definitely right there. So what we're talking about here, Scott, is there's going to be a lot of Thanksgivings that I'd have to be pushed back. If you live near the coast, like I can't, I go down and it's a decent drive for me. But if you live near the coast, get up, get them, and get back for Thanksgiving. And hopefully you're not in that doghouse.
Tomorrow's going to be that day after the dump that really doesn't pay off really well. And then Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, I think, as the water the sun gets out and it starts warming things up a little bit, water starts returning a little. I think that's when it's going to, probably turn on. I don't know that I'd push it and get out there real early. Maybe y'all can have a Thanksgiving breakfast and then
Thanksgiving
go out in the
turkey for
afternoon.
breakfast.
Yeah.
So there's multiple key elements you really have to look into here and judge it. Some of it's off years of experience. Some of it's off just learning from others. But Thursday, the first thing that, you'd want to take into consideration is that all this bait got pulled out. The water should be cleaned up by Thursday. I think especially, the Matagorda area is going to have birds working like crazy. A back lake redfish guys is going to be lower. You're going to be able to see your fish, stuff like that. The second thing you need to look at is how long have you been married to her? If she's got 10
that's
to
exactly
20
what I
years
was going to say.
invested in you, or do you have multiple kids that are, like school age where she needs help? Are you the breadwinner? Does she have other options? If she's super hot or not? These are things you need to take into account on whether or not you really want to go Thursday. Like me, for
Don't tell her
instance,
that last one though.
I've been with my wife. For
I'm
20
going because
years.
you're really not that super
Yeah.
hot.
I mean, I've been with my wife for 20 years. She's pretty, but we have an 11-year-old kid. He's a lot of work. She's not going to leave me over it. So I think Thursday might be a good day to fish.
Scott,
you
are
also
going
have to
Thursday?
consider. You also have to consider whether you were teetering to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
And, this could be the teeter totter that just pushes it over. It only takes 1 pound heavier on one side of the teeter totter.
How
They can
big?
go down.
How big of a deal is her mom going to make it if you didn't show up to Thanksgiving? Like these are all things you need to take into account.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about you two guys? Scott, are you going Thursday?
No, we're heading to Flatonia.
Okay.
Got the big family thing going on up that way.
Okay, so I'm talking to Caleb then. You do this for a living, but you're not taking clients out Thursday. How do you what's your sales job? Sell me on Thursday fishing.
Well, I mean, you're making me say stuff I'm not supposed to say, but babe, I've got a super secret project that's going out. I can't afford to not do this. This is my job. I don't want to work holidays, but in order to provide a better life for you and Cade, I got for men with hands look like this, make it so your hands don't have to, honey.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's going to go over like what, Scott? How is that going to go over? She's going to say, "Okay, darling," or what is she going to say, Scott?
Yeah, that's not going to work, man.
John,
she'll just still be mad at you because she's always mad at you about something. So she's just still mad at you.
Well, see, the thing is, and John can probably vouch for me here, I didn't marry a Latina, so I'm not really that scared of her. I have dated some that I wouldn't pull this shit with.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Hey, I know how you can do it. You could say, "Hey, Don, at least I'm not sanding the table,
dude,
in the living room."
Man, when that wind was blowing through the front door this morning, I thought of that story. I was like, "Oh boy, yeah." Glad we didn't do that again. I thought of that today.
I'm interested in the comments because I have the same story every time. Like if I was just an hour closer, I would go Thursday, but it's the same story I tell every time. Because I'm not like a big go to the bar with the guys guy. I always tell her, I don't go to bars. I'm always here. I do all the work around the house. I've added all these projects I've done. This is the only thing. This is my only vice. Like, my biggest vice is fishing. You got to be able to at least appreciate that. And mostly because she doesn't care, because we've been married 35 plus years. She'll go, all right. But Thursday's a no-go. I mean, I'm frying the turkeys and all that.
And the universal one is I'm just trying to feed my family. I mean, that works on all levels.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work.
That's not working.
That doesn't work. That ain't working.
I mean, the whole first half, all of my adult working life in the beginning, I worked every damn holiday. Like Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of them. I worked all of them.
That's a good one. That will work.
Yeah. And if I didn't work, I was usually sitting in a deer blind, honestly. Thanksgiving mornings.
See, I'll be
I
real with
always
it.
slipped off to a deer blind. But I still made the family deal in the afternoon, but I'd do something in the morning. And that's doable. You can swing that.
Yeah, you can definitely swing that.
I've always
as long as you didn't volunteer to do the turkey like you.
Yeah, I do it every year. That's my problem.
See, I'm pretty honest about all my goings-ons, and one thing I can say is I cannot use I do all this stuff around the house, so you should let me go. I don't do crap around here, man.
I don't do squat.
I mean, I mopped up whenever it gets cold and windy, Steve, he'll go outside, but he'll hold it for whatever reason. He'll come back in like, I'm going to pee right there in front of your TV and there's nothing you're going to do about it. So I did take care of that earlier today. And I'm kind of proud of it. I felt like bragging to her a little bit about it when she gets home.
Hey, I stopped them from peeing in front of the house.
And that's why I should get to go fishing. I cleaned up one mess. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. One more thing before we move on here, and I'm not trying to put you too much on the spot here, but we've been hearing and talking about this secret project, Caleb, for a good bit now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any information that you can share about when when and how?
No, I mean, all I'm really going to say right now is it's going to be cool. That the weather patterns and some different things are kind of pushing it back and everything. And I've got it primarily ready to go, but whenever it's ready to go, I want it to be the best I can make it. And right now, there's more stuff I want to add to it before it gets going.
Okay, but keep your eyes out on that and subscribe to Captain Caleb TV just like you do
Follow my page on Facebook, the Captain Caleb TV page. Like everything, I put everything there more than I should, really.
Yeah, you do. One other thing on this before we move on, because there's a redfish topic that would relate to this, but there's just something special, whether it's hunting. And by the way, Captain Dean is weighing in from a tree. He says, sorry, missed today, as you see on the screen right now. But if you're listening on the recorded podcast, I'm in my tree watching deer. Can't talk right now. So everybody be quiet when we're talking so he can get those deer. But Thanksgiving weekend has a certain aura to it. And whether it's hunting, for me, it's always fishing. I always go the morning after Thanksgiving, hell or high water, try to clean up as much as I can because I do stuff around the house, Caleb, the night of, and then just boom, gone. And I'm boom, gone this week too. I'll be out there early Friday. But for some reason, one of the biggest reasons, Scott, is it's November. But the other, it's you're on the water on a Friday, even though it's a holiday weekend. Not quite as many people can do what you do, but for some reason, Thanksgiving for me is always like a trigger. I mean, it's always just good memories. I've had some of my best fishing days on that Friday, maybe even into the weekend on Thanksgiving. It's just a cool thing. But you're going to be in a deer blind, but something about Thanksgiving that just kind of sets things off,
Yeah, I typically head off to the deer lease, that Friday after Thanksgiving. That's just always been my thing. I fish all year, so I'm ready. I know everybody's going to be going on that Friday, so I just soon go the other direction. So I head out and go to the deer lease. Well, this time, just as I get all my plans set up to go to the deer lease, one of my customers calls and wants to hunt a big deer on the ranch that I guide on. So I will be guiding a deer hunt Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, I mean, I'll still be in a deer stand. I just won't be sitting on the trigger.
Caleb's going to be looking for a place to stay Friday. So we'll see how that goes, Caleb.
I'm going to my mama's house.
Looking for a place to. Speaking of your mama, I got to give her a shout out real quick. Your mother-in-law, I should say. I borrowed the generator from him. My girl finished third in judging, third in People's Choice, and that generator worked like a champ. By the way, I'm going to a little private information publicly here. I'm going to stop by her house Friday morning on the way to Aaron's Pass. If they're there, they're there. If not, I'll put it in a safe place.
Bingo.
To leave them the generator. Yeah, so there's that. All right, so one of the questions we got from our listeners, and you can always direct message us, hit us on the social media pages, leave comments here and we'll save them, etc. So this is a listener. I feel like Scott might be the one to start with here, and then Caleb can add to it. My dad told me a long time ago that the best time to catch the redfish run is during wet and windy weather. Is this true or just an old story? Is it just related to maybe low pressure? I'm asking because of this week's forecast, which obviously we're all experiencing now. I'd also like to know how you guys do it for the redfish run. And is it just jetties and deep passes? By the way, I love the podcast. I've become a better fisherman because of you guys. So specific to the redfish run, and I'm guessing, Scott, he's looking at bull reds. Is there any truth to that, or is that just coincidental with the weather pattern?
Wet, windy, and cold. I probably wouldn't know much about fishing in that, but I wouldn't know what your success ratio would be because I don't like any of that.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. I haven't caught any from the couch, so
that's right.
I don't know, man. I don't know how that would make it better or not better or anything. The redfish run,
I think as the bull reds with weather.
Yeah, the bull reds in the fall, it typically, the real bull red run, so to speak, the spawning run is pretty much over with. That's a September, October thing more. And yeah, it does coincide with some wet, windy weather because it's the absolute best bull red runs I've ever been involved with were when there was some kind of tropical weather on the horizon in September, October. And the whole point behind that is you're getting that big push of water, you're getting a huge tide, and that triggers them to spawn more prolifically. And they're feeding, they're spawning, they're doing their thing, and they're all gathered up in the passes because they want their eggs to float up into the bays as far as possible on those super high tides with the storm.
Yeah.
So yes, wet and windy as far as that goes, but by this time of the year, that's slowed down a lot. I mean, we're still catching bull reds, around the jetties and stuff. That goes on year round, but the real quote unquote run is a little earlier than this. And
Yeah.
barring having some kind of a tropical thing to push a big slug of water in somewhere around the full moon or the dark moon when you have the biggest tides, works out.
Yeah. Go ahead. I knew where you were going
Yeah.
with that. That's why I'm going right. Go ahead,
Next.
Caleb. Give us your insight.
Next, please.
So Chris just said that I remind him of his high school coach who used to drink whiskey out of a coffee cup. You caught me. you got me. Caleb is much more open about his beverage, but that's neither here nor
I need
there.
it. Well, I use it for an excuse. Every week when somebody texts me and says, "I can't believe you said that," I'm like, "Well, I told you what I was doing."
It's whiskey. It's the whiskey talking. It's the whiskey talking. All right. So this is an offshoot of our discussion yesterday, which by the way, last week I should say, which by the way was really, really good and certainly got a lot of listeners involved in it. And the question has to do with only so many resources to go around. Okay, loaded question. So let me just read the whole thing. Is it possible that at least some of the decline of trout and croaker populations, sorry, Caleb, we're going to do it one more time here just to answer this question, that at least some of the decline of the trout and croaker populations over the years could simply be blamed on the resurgence of redfish? In other words, it was a longer question that I shortened, but he was basically saying, hey, man, there's a lot of fish and who knows about the environment and the resources involved. So maybe all these redfish are actually hurting the trout and croaker populations. I've got some very strong opinions on this, but I want to go with Caleb first.
My answer would be shut your damn mouth. Okay, there's a price to pay for everything, and there's just certain things we're gonna live with. All right, next.
Yeah. But Caleb has like the golden ticket right now. It's the whiskey talking. It's the whiskey talking. Scott, I sure would like to find out, even though I think I know that it's not just because of resources. And how would we know? Because they're harvesting croaker,
Yeah. No, don't blame it on the redfish. I keep hearing this over and over again. Yes, redfish will eat trout. Oh yeah, they do. They eat everything else too. They'll eat whatever is out there. So will a trout. A trout will eat other trout. So can we blame the falling numbers of trout on the big trout? So we got to catch the big trout and get rid of the big trout because they're killing all the little trout. That's almost like what this sounds like. Look back at the history of the bays. Look at some of the old writings, Plugger, some of those old stories. There was another book, I forgot the name of it. Somebody posted it the other day. But it talks about the 30s and the 40s, 1930s and 40s, not the upcoming ones, and how many redfish were out there, and they were just everywhere. Talking to my grandfather when he was still alive, they went and they got dropped off on islands around the bay. That's how a guide worked back then. And they would take them and put them on islands. They had a cane pole, a big long cane pole, and white cut t-shirts, pieces of cloth off their t-shirts, and caught all the redfish and all the trout that they wanted. The bays were absolutely stuffed full of fish and everything was fine. They weren't killing each other. The redfish weren't decimating the trout, and they weren't decimating the croaker. It's nature, man. They're out there. They're all doing their thing. We're kind of getting in the way. We're in the middle of it. We take our part. We pollute the water. We do a lot of development. We've killed off a lot of marshes. That's where the problem has come from.
Scott, was there a particular brand of t-shirt you like
I
to
knew
use
it.
when you were coming up?
I know. I saw the grin. Yeah.
I
tell you
knew
what,
it. I could see it.
I'll tell you what the problem is. It's it's all the protections on these damn manatees. These manatees are coming in and tearing everything up. They're getting the trout and the redfish.
Oh man. Now look, to be fair and serious for a second, the ecosystem, the environment, the resources we've talked about it, has taken a hit. That doesn't have anything to do with, or very little, I should say, comparably speaking, with trout and croaker especially. I mean, it's just silly, and one way to find out is to make croaker a game fish, but we don't need to relitigate that whole thing. I did want to get y'all's comments on that, Scott. And go ahead.
I read the question on Facebook, and it seems plausible. And I'm not a science guy to say yes or no. I was like, I don't know. But when there were, like Scott said, when there were such massive numbers of redfish out there, the way a redfish will run through stuff and eat stuff, I think they would have been decimating things if it was that big of a problem.
Yeah. Cane pole and a piece of a t-shirt. How about that?
You think he had? Do you think when Scott was like little 6-year-old, the cane pole and the t-shirt, he still had that beard? I've never seen him without that beard. I can't picture him without one.
Oh man, when I go back and think about some of the things I used to fish with, that's for sure. So this one kind of ties in with a little video I posted today with some of the gadgets that are kind of can't miss. And by the way, if you're shopping for your significant others, I would highly recommend it. It's on this YouTube page, Bite Me Shorts with me. But it's an offshoot of that. Fishing products, and this is another question from one of our listeners, and I forget exactly what product he had that he said he wished he would have tried before you buy. So Caleb, you've been obviously on top of your game for a long time now, and you try different things, which is always good. But fishing products that you definitely should try before you buy. Now, the first two that jumped into mind for me was waders and hats, but I know there's others. Like when guys are trying to try the new thing, like what would you definitely try before you buy?
And every stinking thing. You're so married to what you have. Sunglasses. If you just order some online because you think they look cool on me, they might fit you terribly. I'm using this little bitty Bates Hundo reel right now. It's tiny. About half of the people are like, man, that thing feels great. The other half are like, that's too small. That thing's terrible. I could never throw that. Every single thing, it all costs so stinking much. And you can go to FTU Anglers Anonymous, whatever, put it on, fill it, wear it, hold it, whatever you got to do. I mean, the only thing you don't have to try before you buy is my new product I'm rolling out. But everything else, I would definitely recommend, giving it a good looking. But I think when you were talking about it, what came to my mind was sunglasses, because I've seen some that my buddies wore, and man, they looked great. And I was like, man, I look so cool in that. And I'd order some, and I had a splitting headache in the first 45 minutes I was out there. So glasses would be it for me.
Scott?
Yeah, sunglasses were the first thing that came to my mind. Of course, I worked for Costa for so long, and we had fit classes, where we would be at Daytona, and they would have every style of sunglass there, and then they'd bring 3 or 4 people down out of the office and have them pretend like they were customers coming up to you at a show, and you had to look at their face and pull off 3 different models of sunglasses that would fit their face. You get pretty good at it. Everybody's got a different shaped face, and all those different models were made for different shapes, and you would get really good at picking them out. But the only other way to do it, well, go into one of the stores that is a good Costa store or good whatever brand you're looking at, and try them on, and have somebody there. I went around when I was with Costa and I trained all the kids, all the salespeople at all the different stores on how to do what I was taught to do in Daytona. And so it got to be, my daughter was really good at it. You know, I had her trained up so she could work shows for me, free labor.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, you got to try them on because, like Caleb said, and I would do it. I even did it myself because they would have new models come out and they'd say, well, you know, I know you like Jose, but Jose's an old model. Why don't you try something new so you can kind of show them off?
Yeah.
And I bet I've got a whole drawer full of old sunglasses out there that I wore for 2 days because they pinched the hell out of me. The light came in from the sides, whatever. So sunglasses would be absolutely number one. Number two that came up for me would be a fly rod. There's so many different models of fly rods. They're all made to fit your cast. Everybody has a little different speed on their cast. And that's a real personal choice. The fly rod that works great for me is not going to work for somebody else. I haven't found one yet that works for Caleb, but most people, they get on my boat. I have a little drive-by. I have, you know, there's slower actions, faster actions, and a lot of times I'll keep one of each on my boat, so that when customers come out, they've bought a new fly rod. Have it happen all the time. They got a brand new fly rod. It's way too fast for their stroke, so I can hand them a fly rod that's a little bit slower, a little slower action. And they're like, "Oh man, this thing casts great." Yep, it fits you, and that's in all outdoor stuff. You know, find what fits the way you like to fish.
All right, I got one more. Tournament partners. You should always try those out first. But you know, Scott said he never found. No, Scott said that he never had anything that fit me. Hold on, let me take a sip of my whiskey here.
Yeah, this is gonna be good.
Had he not had his daughter working at the booth, I wouldn't even know who the hell he is. Next.
Is that how you met?
I mean, that's when we met. Scott and his daughter were working a booth like 2 booths down from the booth I was working, and I went over there and acted like I cared about sunglasses or something.
God, that is like, it's getting really, really like seriously uncomfortable, man. It's getting like bad.
Holiday spirit, holiday spirit, bud.
Did y'all see what I did to my sunglasses? My backup Costas. I'm down to 2 pair of Costas, and
I was wondering if those were your new ones. Yeah, that was my first thought. Is that the brand new ones he just got?
No, I'm gonna pick those up from Mike over at Anglers Anonymous probably this week, maybe tomorrow. But dude, it was this was my backup.
I've been in this business a long time. I sold sunglasses a long time. I saw a lot of stuff. I have never seen a pair of sunglasses broken as bad as yours were. What the hell did you do?
Well, funny story, except it's not so funny. So I was getting out of my truck, and I always keep my sunglasses, you know, on the console and between the seats, or obviously around my neck because I have the little lanyard thing or whatever they're called. And for some reason, I took them off and I set them on the left by the door handle. I don't know why I did that. I have no idea. I was driving and whatever. I just set them there. I think maybe I was drinking coffee with my right hand, so I didn't want to, put them over there. Regardless, so I get out of the truck, grab my stuff that I had, and just stepped out of the truck, and I hear crack, and then I heard crack. I broke one lens and then the other lens with my size 13. Like it just sounded like a firecracker. And I'm like, bleep me. Like these. See, I literally just stepped on them with my foot.
I saw those lenses, and then my first thought was, he finally learned what happens when you get too close to the duck blind while red fishing. He caught one right in the face.
That's right. Somebody said I hit myself in the face trying to set a hook with a popping cork. Dude, I've never seen glasses like that in my life. And I said, oh, I thought I stepped like on a plastic cup or something, because it sounded like when you crush a little red Solo or something. And I went, oh, Well,
I-
bleep.
Scott, yeah, I was going to say, I know you didn't go, oh, that's not what you said.
No, it was not that calm.
No, it wasn't. But I'm like, oh, so I've got 2 scratched pair of sunglasses left. I got to get out to Anglers Anonymous and get those. Speaking of broken stuff, this is weird. I don't know. I think you guys might have some sort of theory on this. The question is, why are my rod tips always breaking? This is the question. I buy good rods. Today I broke the tip off the 4th or 5th time this year. I always try to be careful transporting them. I put them in the back of my truck on rubber holders attached to the side of my truck. Or have I just been unlucky? Or is it something I'm doing? Why are the rod tips always breaking? Anybody have any thought? I couldn't think of any real reason other than there's a flaw that he's consistently putting near the tip. Scott?
No, I mean, it's obviously something he's doing.
Yeah.
And it take a little investigating to figure out exactly what he's doing there. But I mean, rods don't just all break in the same place, or else we wouldn't all have rods. We'd all be having that problem.
Yeah.
And I very seldom have ever broken a rod off.
The only
right
thing I
at the
could think
tip.
of is something with his rod holder on his truck.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
things can happen to a rod anytime. Talking to the high end rod builders and the guys who geek out over that stuff, the way those things are made, any bump on it is like a bruise. It breaks a few of the fibers. Then as the rod is
Mhm.
flexed at that point, it breaks some more fibers, and eventually wherever it was bruised, it's going to break at some point given enough flexes. That can be from a weight hitting on it, and that's what I used to find a lot when I was in the rod business. Was people would hook their hook onto the little hook keeper, and they'd have an egg sinker on there. If they were throwing a cork with an egg sinker and a lure or a bait, they'd have their hook hooked up like that. And as they ride down the road with that rod and rod holder, that weight's hitting the same spot on the rod, continuously vibrating against it. Yeah, then the rod breaks right there. No
Hey.
big shock. But there's
Gotta
something
be
that he's
something like
doing.
that. Go ahead, Caleb.
It's consistent.
The only thing I can think of is if there, when he says rubber rod holders, I don't know if he's talking about actual rod tubes. I don't think he is. I think he's talking about the ones you like stick them in and they stick up in the air.
That's what I was thinking.
If they're bay rods or something like that, that wind is whooping them in the air. But if you have, like Scott said, if you have a line ran through it with a line coming down and hooked up to something, you've added an extra weight to it, and that rod's bending and flexing the entire time that you're driving. I wouldn't ever put my rods anywhere but in the passenger seat, sticking in the back, because that wind and stuff will get to them. And like Scott was saying, the rods, especially the nicer ones, they call them multi-modulus. They're hollow on the inside, and they've got really thin walls of multiple layers of graphite. And all this stuff is meant to bend and flex and work together. So you add one little tick in it, and you have added a weak spot that every time it flexes, that particular spot is getting all of the torque put on it. And I mean, I've seen it happen all the time. Hit my rod on a piece of aluminum or something in the boat, and you can tell when you hit it right. And sometime in the next week, day, month, year, it's going to break right there where you smacked it at.
Yeah, and one other thing I thought of, and I agree with you, and I think Scott does too. Just carry them in your truck, right on that passenger seat. The only other thing I thought of, and the only reason I did, is because there's a guy that has a boat down in the marina where I keep mine, that has the little cover on his boat, the T-top.
Yeah,
and it has rod holders in them. And I wouldn't, in the top.
Yeah.
I never ever put rod holders anything except the butt of the rod, because when it's on the top, and I think maybe this is what he has, a lot of them have like holes in the top of the T-top and the bottom. Don't do that, because the tip is just the whole time you're hitting waves and everything, and you know what, it's in the same spot every time.
That whole works on a big old heavy offshore rod, bay stuff. I think what you're really trying to say is don't put T-tops in your bay boat.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Although I wouldn't mind a little bit of a cover every once in a while in the summer. That's for sure. But that happens. And he puts his bay rods in there, and I feel like telling him, you might want. But then people get kind of like bothered by some bozo telling him how to
Well,
carry
you
his
see
rods or
people all the
whatever.
time,
But
their rod's sticking out of the back of their truck and it's laying on the tailgate. And if that was before he told me, or you told me what he did to haul it, I was thinking he's leaving it laying on the tailgate and it's just tap, 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 and we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So colder weather, colder months coming exactly. A listener question. We've got a lot of listener questions today about something that Caleb, you said recently. So you take you take it first here. He says he likes the colder months because the water is clearer. You did. But he also said he's throwing pretty much the same rotation of colors year round. I think that was 2 or 3 podcasts ago. You said, you like the water, it's clear in the winter, but you're throwing the same colors. Does clearer water in colder months affect what you throw at all? I mean, you said no, but I think he's saying if it's clearer water, we've always talked about, a little lighter baits.
Red fishing wise, I'm usually throwing white or purple and clear water. I mean, I'm in clear water all year long in Louisiana. Then I come back over here to dirty water and I'll throw clear or purple. Yesterday when we were fishing, we got into some clearer stuff, throwing corkies, and we went a little bit more into the natural side of stuff. I'll still throw my pearl chartreuse. I'll still throw my pink and pearl and stuff like that. But we did end up swapping over to one called Day Glow, which is essentially like a kind of a light green color that is a little bit more natural. But no, I don't get real hung up on the water super clear. I have to throw a different color than I did in the dirty water. That's what I like about the purples and the whites, is they kind of work clean or dirty.
So Scott, you're one of the ones like me, light, clear, light, dark water, darker colors. But does it affect you when it gets clearer any more than usual?
Not a whole lot. I might start going smaller if it seems to be affecting the fish. Yeah, if they're kind of turning off of it, they're not super aggressive towards the lure, I'll just start going a little bit smaller. Same thing with flies. Just keep going smaller until you figure it out. The clear water, it seems like, well, we've had that problem the last 2 days. They were just a lot more spooky. I had fly fishermen on the boat, and every time, and they're both good casters, really good casters. And as they would pick the rod up, just raising the rod in that with that clear water and the fish fairly close to us would spook the hell out of them. Of course, they've also been run over by 4,932 airboats in the last few weeks with duck hunters. So I think that might have something to do with it too. But yeah, they're super, super spooky. And when you throw something bigger and darker and it hits the water, you'll see them just spin and take off a lot of times. And when they're doing that, then that's when I start going smaller and smaller until they finally quit running from it and start eating it.
That breaks down to 352 airboats a day.
Dude, it's getting crazy.
Portal, Connor?
I bet. Yeah. No, I can almost hear it from Matagorda.
I swear the other day I was fishing, and actually my wife was with me because she had never, she doesn't fish that much. Only recently she really started doing more. And we were in this real beautiful, tranquil, quiet. I mean, she was just sitting there, not even fishing, just like enjoying nature and life. And all of a sudden, here it comes, and you hear it, and then all of a sudden it comes right by us. And I had a real good, view of the other side of where I was, and it was 3 miles away, and I could still hear that thing just rattling like crazy. Look, if you own an airboat, I want to say, okay, let live and let live. Man, I just don't, don't get it.
Maybe it's the whiskey talking. Maybe I shouldn't say this on air. But if you own an airboat, I want to go for a ride. Let me go. And I want to go to Port O'Connor and look for a Sabine polling skiff. I've got particular plans.
I go right by it. Hey, you catching anything?
I will say this, man. Airboats, they can be a pain. We're fishing the World Series, And here comes one right down the shoreline behind us. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And this guy got about 200 yards, 150, 100. He's coming. I'm like, oh, man. And this dude just turns left, jumps a levee, and drives it through a pasture to some more water. It's like, all right, this guy's cool, man. I like this. I want to ride on his boat.
Maybe ride an airboat when I'm not fishing and nobody's fishing, because it's you're getting you're getting looks. I mean, you're absolutely getting looks.
If somebody wanted to get Captain Caleb a Christmas present, a boat ride on an airboat in Port O'Connor on the day of my choosing, namely when Scott doesn't answer the phone at 8 a.m. and I know why, I'd like, let's do this. This would be good.
Yeah.
We're going to do some. Go ahead, Scott. You got something?
I probably shouldn't.
No, go ahead. Take a swig of whiskey. Take a swig of whiskey.
No, it's funny, man. The airboat guys all say, "Oh, it doesn't bother the fish. It doesn't bother the fish." Dude, I'm standing on my polling platform in the marsh, and there's probably, I don't know, 700-800 yards of dry ground between me and the airboat who's running on the outside of the marsh down the shoreline, and I can feel it in my feet through the boat. And we all know that redfish and trout and all that, they can feel a shrimp kick 5 feet away from them. It's got to affect them. It's got to be like just sticking your head inside of a drum and just beating on it, because they're so sensitive to vibrations, from bait fish, and that's how they find fish in dirty water a lot. That's just got. I mean, I can't imagine what that feels like to a fish that's that sensitive to the vibrations.
See, I've been told the same thing, that the fish never knows the boat's there because the motor isn't in the water. And I've tried to wrap my head around it. I've made an honest effort.
You have to wear ear muffs just to ride it.
I mean, it's going to rattle the in the marsh.
It's going to rattle everything. Yes. And speaking of that one recently, my wife asked me a very simple question that I wasn't sure I had an answer to. Let me ask you two guys before we move on. What would Scott do? What would Caleb do? She said, well, your boat is in the same depth of water. Your boat gets real skinny, as you like to say. She's starting to catch on to some terms, by the way. And I said, yeah. So why do they need it? And I'm like, good question. I mean, I guess like what Caleb, you're saying, they can hop stuff and get over.
I'll take you to places,
areas, but why would?
I'll take you to places in my marsh where they run smooth over everything, the grass, the mangroves, everything, and make their own trails so that they can have shortcuts going to their spots. And it just tears the hell out of everything.
See, I could give you one very good reason why you need an airboat. I kind of live by that reasons. And we don't have many airboats in Matagorda, but when I see one, it's quite often good news.
Yeah, because it's coming to rescue you.
It is coming to get me. We cast over here at Captain Caleb TV. We cast no shade at airboats
because you need them. But that I thought that was a good question by her. Because like with today's technology and the boats that we're driving, whether it's a skiff, whether it's a skinny running boat, or whatever, what are you really missing out on other than the rush of hopping an island to get to some more water?
Yeah, there's like Scott said, my boat and his boat will go almost anywhere an airboat will go, minus jumping up in the pasture and driving through it. But my boat and his boat, you can't load it up with shotguns and decoys and go duck hunting. That's the only fair thing I can come up with, and the words Letterkenny, to be fair, that's all I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, because my neighbor is a huge duck hunter, and he was checking out my skiff, and he's like, man, I'm gonna get one of those to be a duck hunter. And no, that's not gonna work out very well for you. But that's all I can come up with is for duck hunting stuff.
All right, something really funny that a buddy of mine just texted that's listening to the podcast here on the live YouTube stream. I'm going to bounce it off of you before we get to what would Scott do and what would Caleb do. He says, y'all were talking about turkey a second ago, about Thanksgiving a second ago. And he put, turkey for you is soft plastics, mashed potatoes is top water, dressing is your popping cork, and pie is your twitch bait. Because he knows what I throw. I mean, I've fished with him a lot. So like my number one go-to most of the time, if we're just all things being equal, is probably a soft plastic. Where I fish now, it's probably actually top water above soft plastic, but I get his point. And then dressing is my popping cork, and pie is my twitch bait. So what's your turkey, mashed potatoes, dressing, and pie of lures that you choose? Like turkey is the headliner, then mashed potatoes, then dressing, then pie. I gotta ask. Sorry.
Dude, God dang, man. This is like a word question in 5th grade. This is messing me up.
I know. What time does the train get to the station in Spain if it leaves Italy? At 30 miles an hour.
If a tree falls in the woods,
what's your turkey? What's your turkey lure followed by because you go turkey, mashed potato, dressing, pie. So mine is soft. Actually, right now it's top waters, and then soft plastics, and popping cork is my number 3.
All right,
we don't do mashed taters.
I don't do turkey.
You don't.
All right, look, I'll start.
Potatoes?
I'll Scott. I'll lead, and then you can come behind me. Okay, so for Captain Caleb's Thanksgiving, my cold beer would be plastics. My ribs would be twitch baits.
Mm-hmm.
My cold beer after the ribs would be top water.
Your top water.
And then the hangover the next day would be popping corks. All right, Scott, your turn.
That's on brand. That's very good. I got to give you credit on that. You don't. First of all, you're burying the lead here. You don't have mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving?
No, they don't go with cold beer or ribs very well.
No, we
The
don't.
ribs I get.
I mean, mashed taters just
really helpful.
Yeah. Now you got cranberry sauce. You got
You gotta have mashed potatoes.
Scott, what I gotta.
You got dressing. That's kind of a mashed potato.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
Miss Penny
Yes,
seems to be. She seems to be like the lady that has like something kick-ass at Thanksgiving. What is it?
Oh, dude, she's always got everything is good. I mean, she doesn't make anything bad. Neither does Camille, and my aunt's the same way. So there is a wide variety. I mean, okay, we have a tackle store for Thanksgiving if you want to go that route.
That's yours. Yeah, that's yours.
You just go down an aisle and start shopping, dude. I mean,
you got fishing tackle unlimited.
Yeah. They'll tell Camille, hey, so they all get together and who's going to bring what and all that. And they tell Camille, okay, well, you got dessert. And Camille, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every one of them's going to bring a dessert anyway. They're all going to bring some. There's going to be 15 pies there. There's all kind of stuff, man. And it's literally, I mean, it's walking in Fishing Tackle Unlimited and deciding what aisle to go down and just start picking. And dude,
hey, Caleb,
if you walk out of my aunt's house in Flatonia and you're hungry, it's your own damn fault.
You're damn right.
And almost everybody walks out of there. You walk out of there also with enough for about 3 days worth of meals when you get home.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest part. So yeah,
pants unbuckled, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb, do you fry turkey? Do y'all guys fry turkeys? Because you mentioned ribs a second ago. I'm going to give it a little help. This is a bonus helpful hint for our listeners. If you fry turkeys for Thanksgiving, do you?
Do I?
Yeah.
Dude, I won't even eat a turkey sandwich on July 4th. That is the most useless bird on the planet. It's like, I mean, I bought a diamond ring for my wife, but it is something that has been like brought into our culture that you have to have a turkey for Thanksgiving. And it does now. One year we fried a pheasant. It was pretty cool. It's shaped like a turkey, kind of.
Man, who hurt you?
I'm telling you, it's the most useless bird on the planet.
Wait a minute, John. I mean, okay, frying a turkey is work, right? That involves planning.
Yeah, it's a planning and about
there's
3.5
work to it. There's cleanup. Yeah, there's cleanup involved. Not he just told you earlier that it was a big deal for him to clean up after his dog peed in front of him. Yeah. So you really think that he's going to go all out into frying a turkey?
He won't even wipe up urine.
I'm just going to continue my quest to enter the Knoll family and go to Flatonia 1 year. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. All right. So helpful hint. Then we're going to what Scott do. What would Caleb do? If you're frying turkeys, and I'm not talking to you, obviously, but a lot of our listeners fry turkeys. Here's what you do. Because you mentioned ribs and it reminded me. Before you even fry your turkey, get a rack of ribs. Doesn't matter. St. Louis style, baby back, or whatever. And fry that in the oil. Because what that does, it gets all that good fat and juices and the beef and the pork or whatever. and it gets it into the oil. And you have an appetizer, first of all, with fried ribs, and then your turkey oil is perfectly seasoned.
Okay, kid you not, slice up baby back ribs, roll them in cornmeal, fry them. They're delicious. Here, but I've also heard a method similar to what you're talking about, John. And you do. It actually takes about 3 racks of ribs. You get all 3 racks of ribs, and you season them up and everything, and then you go start your fire in the pit, right? And then you go get your turkey, okay? And you take your turkey and you throw that sumbitch in the trash, and you go cook your ribs and you eat them. It's a proven method.
We're a full service podcast here.
I do believe that on that ranch in George West, the turkeys violated him.
Hey,
sure.
I'll tell you, I have been violated by a turkey. You want to hear that story? I'll tell you that story.
Well, we're here. We don't have a time limit.
So I grew up.
First of all, the quote, in case you missed it, the quote is, "I have been violated by a turkey."
I have been violated by a turkey. I'll tell you about the pickle wrist later on in life. But we grew up on a big ranch on the Nueces River bottom. Our front yard alone was like 20 something acres, and it wasn't a pasture. It was an actual yard. And we had all these little buildings all over the place, like pump buildings, well house buildings, propane tank, all this stuff. And my dad would put Milo in the yard every day. And we probably I bet we had 200 turkeys that came and ate every day. And I'm probably Cade's age, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I decided I'm going to kill me a turkey. And so I go get my Red Ryder BB gun, the old click with a spring in it, and I lay down prone on my belly, Navy SEAL style, between a propane tank and a well house. And dude, I'm there for like hours. I had my Sitka gear on and everything. And finally this turkey presents itself, and it's probably 5 yards. It comes out broadside, beautiful shot. And I take my Red Ryder and I take aim, and I shot that sucker right in the wing, shoulder, whatever you want to call it. And you wouldn't believe how resilient a turkey feather is, because it bounced that down BB and hit me right between the eyes. And that's the last time I've ever been turkey hunting. It was an utter failure. I could have died.
Dang.
It's
all right.
It was poor planning. We'll start there.
Look, I thought the plan was great.
Well, kill a turkey with a BB gun.
Sean, do you like turkey bacon?
I shoot it in the thickest part of the feathers that you can get on a turkey.
Yeah.
You know how hard
I'm not a
to
big
turkey
fan
in the
of
head of the
turkey
Red Ryder, bro? Are you a turkey bacon guy?
Not really. No.
Tofu?
Turkey.
You like tofu? Do you order a veggie burger or Whataburger?
God, no. What's wrong with you?
My wife. I mean, we're so pro turkey here. I'm looking for red flags.
Turkey is delicious. Fried turkey is the best. Don't forget to cook your ribs. I don't put anything on them, just a lot of rub, and fry those first before you put your turkey in. You will thank me later. All right. Good. What would Scott do? What would Caleb? I'm gonna bring you some fried turkey that's cooked in rib oil. What would Caleb do? You guys kind of hit it a little bit in the short term, but we got more than a lot of people can't get up early on Thursday and go fishing because of Thanksgiving. So let's look at Thursday, Friday. I think Scott was talking earlier that maybe Thursday afternoon if you have an earlier Thanksgiving. But what about heading into the weekend? A lot of people going into the long weekend are going to be fishing, including yours truly. But Scott, what would you do this weekend? We touched on Thursday, but beyond that.
Well, the tide's going to go out it is going out right now for those who are still uninformed about the dump. But the tide is dropped and will stay out. It's not really going to come back much. We're not going to get that return of the southeast right behind the front on Thursday. Everything's less than, what I'm seeing, 6 miles an hour is the max on Thursday. Then Friday, there's like a secondary front or something that's got a little northeast 13, 15.
That's what I'm looking at.
So the water's not going to come back, and it's going to stay a little chilly. Temperatures mostly in the 60s down here. Water temperatures dropped a little bit. I would imagine the water's going to be super clear, and that's not a hell of a lot of wind. So you could pretty much do whatever you'd want as far as getting up there on the flats. I think, I don't know, there's not a lot of sun involved, so it's hard to say if it's going to warm up enough where they'll start moving back up on the flats. But it's not super cold, so they're not really all going to just bail off into super deep water either. It's kind of up in the air. It's going to be one of those times when you need to go out there and really start just check shallow, check a little bit deeper, and then eventually locate your fish. Probably do that by wade fishing more so than anything else. Yeah, that'd probably be my go-to is probably start off wading a drop off, and then if nothing's happening there, maybe go up a little bit shallower and see if they've moved up any. If the sun comes out, they will move up. But it's going to be a search. I mean, this is a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge change. Caleb, I'm looking at Friday for personal reasons. But midday might be better than anything. Starting at about 10, 11 a.m. Tide's coming in, and the wind's not too awful. Well, at least where I'm going to be fishing. Barometric pressure dropping for those who abide by that. What are you doing?
Well, all right. Before I get going into this, I'll concede the leg is edible. All right. Friday would be a good day to spend begging for forgiveness for fishing Thursday. But my game plan would be everybody needs to thank me because I absolutely have to be out of town. Every time I'm that way, the weather over here is phenomenal for fishing. My go-to would be I would leave the ramp. If you have access to it, go look around, see if there's any schooling action in a back lake. And then I would be on the middle coast. I would be out in the bay looking for birds on Friday and Saturday. That would probably be my thing. I'd be more into drifting than wading, really. This is going to... All right, so everybody got to understand, me and Scott's daughter, we're actually good friends, and she gives him as much hell as I do. But since I was mean to Scott today, I will say this.
Yeah.
I waited all day long yesterday, all day long. The barometer was like almost hurricane low, 29.6. And I caught a freaking flounder. That's what I caught all day long, a flounder. I had some buddies in another boat that they caught 3 trout all day long. I'm not saying it wasn't perfect for catching them. I'm just saying they weren't right. Probably airboats. We got so many airboats over here. It's crazy.
I blame the airboats. It was absolutely the airboats.
Stupid. You know what it is? It's some damn croaker fishermen. That's probably what it was.
And who were you fishing with? You were fishing with Pat?
Shh. We can't say that.
Yeah.
Pat definitely. No, Pat was not with me yesterday.
Okay.
Pat was not with me. I was with Larry and Jimmy yesterday.
And you were
Larry and Jimmy.
Okay. I was with Larry and Jimmy yesterday, and no, Pat wanted to go.
It's their fault.
And one unnamed angler who is one of the better trout fishermen in the entire area, and y'all didn't catch trout.
But Pat wasn't there. Pat wasn't there. He couldn't go because he had to work.
Did you try popping cork?
Yeah, Pat was working.
Pat had to work this day.
There you go. There's your answer. Answer.
I did not go to the popping cork. Now, if we'd have drifted, it'd have probably been good. But no, it's like pelicans. 1 out of 10 times, or 10% of the time, you're right on this barometer crap. Exactly. Anyway, but no, I would go out looking for redfish, and then if that didn't work, I'd be out in the bay drifting probably on Friday and Saturday. I mean, every day looks good. Sunday looks pretty good. It all looks pretty decent.
Yeah, looking forward. Sunday's looking pretty good.
And Sunday's prefrontal again.
Bit of rain, but it's prefrontal. Yeah, it's right there before that front kicks off again. Of course, yesterday was prefrontal too. What'd you catch?
No. To be fair, Santa. All right. See, this is why I'm not nice to him. You see how he does whenever I'm nice to him?
Yeah.
That when we left, me and Jimmy and Larry, not Pat, when we left, it was like right at dark, and we started seeing slicks popping everywhere, and we were out doing videos and stuff. So I was like, you know what? Just take me back to a beer. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. And yeah, but I put on my stupid pants, went stupid fishing in stupid weather, and didn't even catch a stupid fish.
On that note, good luck. Good luck this weekend, everybody.
And we're the experts you turn to.
Have a great.
Why do you listen to us?
We want listeners, not alienating them, but that's okay. They know what you guys are. Too bad Pat didn't go fishing. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. And I'm talking to everybody listening and to my guys, Dean, Caleb, Scott, you guys are the best. Catch them up. We'll talk to you next time.
Pat didn't go.
Shoot a deer, Dean.